In 2022, a single car sold for more than $48 million. Not a fleet of vehicles. Not a collection. One car. One auction. One hammer drop. That number shattered records and left the entire automotive world completely speechless. The most expensive cars ever sold at auction are not just about transportation. They are about history, obsession, rarity, and the extraordinary lengths that the ultra-wealthy will go to own something no one else can have. Welcome to a world where horsepower meets history and price tags lose all connection to reality. In the next 10 minutes, we are going to walk through the most jaw-dropping automotive auction sales ever recorded. We will talk about the cars themselves, the buyers behind the bids, and the deeper story of why certain machines command prices that rival entire skyscrapers. And along the way, we will reveal something that surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time: the car that holds the all-time record is not the one most enthusiasts would guess. To understand why cars sell for tens of millions of dollars, you need to understand the history of serious automotive collecting. Before the 1980s, the collector car market was relatively modest. Wealthy individuals bought and traded classic machines, but prices rarely climbed into the millions. That began to change in the late 80s when Japanese investment money flooded into global luxury markets, including rare automobiles. Ferrari values exploded almost overnight. A car that sold for a few $100,000 in 1984 could fetch $3 or $4 million just 5 years later. Then the market corrected. The early 90s saw a crash that wiped out fortunes and left some collectors holding assets worth a fraction of what they had paid. But the crash also created a foundation for something more durable. The collectors who survived began building a true connoisseurship culture. Provenance mattered. Documentation mattered. Racing history mattered. By the 2000s, the top-tier auction houses like RM Sotheby's, Gooding & Company, and Bonhams had become the gatekeepers of an extremely serious and extremely expensive global marketplace. Today, a world record auction result is not accidental. It requires the convergence of the right car, the right documentation, the right moment in the market, and sometimes the right two bidders who refuse to back down. Now let us get into the actual numbers. The current all-time record for a car sold at auction belongs to a 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe. In May of 2022, this car was sold by Mercedes-Benz itself through RM Sotheby's in a private auction context, ultimately fetching $143 million. That price is so far beyond any other automotive auction result that it essentially exists in its own category. The 300 SLR was never put into production. Only 2 were ever built, and they were kept by Mercedes for decades. The car is named after Rudolf Uhlenhaut, the chief engineer who used one as his personal transport. It produces over 300 horsepower from a straight-8 engine derived directly from Mercedes Formula One technology of the era. When this car sold, the result was so stunning that it took days for the industry to fully process it. The next tier of records involves Ferrari, and this should surprise no one. Ferrari dominates the upper end of the public auction record books with a consistency that no other manufacturer can match. The most expensive Ferrari ever sold publicly at auction is a 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO, which sold for $48.4 million at RM Sotheby's in 2018. The 250 GTO is widely considered the holy grail of collector cars. Only 36 were ever built. Each one has a documented racing history. The cars were hand-built by Ferrari for serious competition, and they remain among the most viscerally beautiful automobiles ever created. The combination of absolute rarity, racing pedigree, and Ferrari's unmatched brand mythology makes the GTO essentially a category unto itself. But here is what nobody talks about. The $48 million Ferrari was not the most expensive GTO ever sold. Private transactions involving 250 GTOs have reportedly reached $70 million and beyond. The auction record only tells part of the story. Much of the real action at the top of this market happens quietly, away from the cameras. Let us continue climbing through the record books. A 1964 Ferrari 275 GTB/ for NART Spider sold for $27.5 million in 2013. This particular car has a remarkable story. It was one of 10 NART Spiders ever built, and it was originally owned by actress and style icon Joanne Woodward, the wife of Paul Newman. Newman himself was a serious racing driver who competed well into his 70s, and his connection to this car added significant value to an already extraordinary machine. Speaking of Paul Newman, his personal 1995 Rolex Daytona watch sold for $17.7 million in 2017. That is not a car, but it illustrates something important. The most valuable collectibles are not just objects. They are stories. They are pieces of a specific human life at a specific moment in history. That principle applies to cars more than almost anything else. Back to the auction floors. A 1967 Ferrari 275 GTB/for SNART Spider brought $27.5 million. A 1957 Ferrari 335S by Scaglietti sold for $35.7 million in 2016 through Art Curial. That car had a storied racing history, including entries at the Mille Miglia and Le Mans. Every scratch in its coachwork could be traced back to a specific race on a specific road in a specific year. What makes a car cross from expensive to record-breaking? Experts consistently point to 4 factors. First is rarity. The fewer examples that exist, the higher the ceiling on value. Second is racing provenance. A car that actually competed at Le Mans or the Mille Miglia carries a premium that a Concours perfect example kept in a garage simply cannot match. Third is condition and documentation. A complete set of original factory records, photographs, and ownership history can add millions to a car's value. Fourth is timing. Market conditions at the moment of sale can dramatically affect the final number. Here is a stat that will stop you in your tracks. The top 10 most expensive cars ever sold at auction represent a combined value of over $400 million. That is the gross domestic product of a small nation. And virtually all of those sales happened within the last 15 years, reflecting an era of unprecedented wealth concentration at the top of the global economy. One car worth discussing in depth is the 1954 Mercedes-Benz W196 Formula One racing car that sold for $29.6 million in 2013 through Bonhams. This was the actual Grand Prix car driven by Juan Manuel Fangio during his 1954 championship campaign. Fangio is considered by many to be the greatest racing driver of all time. His win rate in Formula One has never been equaled. Owning his actual championship car is the equivalent of owning the bat Babe Ruth used to hit his final home run, except the car is infinitely rarer and the engineering behind it is genuinely revolutionary. What does all of this mean for the broader automotive and investment world? Collector cars have increasingly been treated as alternative assets, similar to fine art or rare wine. But unlike art or wine, cars require maintenance, storage, insurance, and specialist expertise. The carrying costs on a $40 million Ferrari are not trivial. Climate-controlled storage, annual inspections, specialist mechanics, and insurance premiums can easily run into 6 figures per year. And yet the returns have been extraordinary. The Knight Frank Luxury Investment Index tracked collector. Car values rising over 300% in the decade between 2012 and 2022. That outperformed gold, wine, and most traditional financial instruments during the same period. The ultra-wealthy discovered that the right car, purchased at the right moment, is not just a passion purchase. It is a genuinely powerful store of value. The auction houses themselves have evolved dramatically to serve this market. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to AutoVision Daily for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.